So I'm going to call to order this Lacey City Council meeting on April 25th, 2019. And if you're able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I do have one amendment to tonight's agenda. I'd like to amend the agenda to add a number C under the city manager's report, entitle it Council Vacancy Voting Procedures. But with that, can I get a motion to approve the amended agenda?
I move that we approve the amended agenda and consent agenda items.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. And we have an agenda. And so first up under public recognitions is the Student of the Month recognition. Courtney. Oh.
Hello, good evening. My name is Megan Sullivan. I'm the Director of Youth Services for Gateway Rotary Club. We have a few Gateway Rotarians in this room with us tonight. Gateway Rotary is about 100 folks that get up early in the morning on Wednesdays to put service above self. And we're here and really proud and excited to recognize a couple of young people who put service above self. So I'd like to invite two who I know are present to come stand up here, and I'll read a few words about each of them. Brandon Kim, would you please come up and join me? And Cody Smith-Cruz, would you please come up and join me? We're actually recognizing another couple of folks who are not here. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Brandon first. So Brandon is a student at River Ridge High School in 12th grade. Brandon is gifted and talented and has been involved in so many things, not just academically. This award is beyond academics and athletics. It's about, again, the service that these students provide to their community. So not only is he a really skilled and gifted athlete and participates in a number of sports and got 5 varsity letters, but he really has a desire to help his community. Brandon believes the most important thing you can do is to help other people, and he's volunteered countless hours for Home Works of America to help build and repair homes for low-income families, and many, many, many other lovely things. And now I'd like to tell you a little bit about Cody Smith-Cruz, who's a Timberline High School sophomore who is nominated by one of his teachers for Student of the Month again for his service. He serves on the Lacey Teen Council and does a number of activities with the city, helping pull ivy and weeds at community parks. He also helps with the Giving Tree, Breakfast with Santa, and a whole host of other things, both with the city and with the school district, city holiday parades, act nights at the schools, plays in the band, plays soccer, has an excellent GPA. So these two students are outstanding students. Would you join me in a round of applause for these two students? And before we wrap up, I'm just going to briefly acknowledge the two who couldn't be here. Adrienne Liebert is a North Thurston High School student who volunteered a whole bunch of time with Safe Place to help alleviate the impact of domestic violence. And then we also have one more named Cora, and I'm shuffling through papers to see what I did with Cora. I didn't know you were here. Cora, I'm sorry. Cora, will you come up? I'm sorry, that's my mistake. Cora Sharp has an awesome story as well. Cora loves animals, and she actually, any animal does not freak her out. She volunteers with Thurston County Animal Services. She's done that for 5 years, and she will hold a snake and not even be creeped out. She also is enrolled at SPSCC, and she is going to have her AA in biology when she graduates from Timberline in the same month. And I got to see her at her school, and what was the name of that bug that you were breeding bugs? Australian spine leaf insect? Spiny leaf insect. It's pretty cool. If you get to go to Tumwater High School, please ask to see those because she bred generations of them for the school district. So these are 3 outstanding young people. Let's give them all 3 a round of applause. My apologies, Cora. And if I can be so bold, can we have a picture with council with these young people? Yes. I think they would really enjoy that, and I hope you will enjoy that as well. Thank you.
You're in a section.
I know. So next up on our agenda is the Earth Day and National Trails Day. Cody? And then after that, we have the St. Martin's basketball team. We're going to have them say a few words.
It's been like a year. All right. Hello. My name is Cody Lee. I've been with Lacey Parks and Rec for 12 years now. A little bit about me. I was drawn into recreation while I was in the ed program over at St. Martin's and playing basketball. Go Saints. So I was doing this part-time during the summer, running recreation programs, and full-time job came about, and it was an opportunity to work with youth. And so it was something that was right up my alley, and I've been here ever since, and excited to be doing teen and youth programs here. The ones that I'm currently working on are our teen trips. We do river rafting, snow tubing trips, hiking, overnight camping trips, get the teens out there and having experiences that maybe they aren't going to have any other place. So it's a lot of fun. During the summer, I run a teen adventure camp. We take our two 15-passenger vans out every single day on a different field trip. We have 26 teens enrolled for 8 weeks of the summer, and they go and explore the Northwest. We take them up to like Port Townsend and go kayaking out there, or out to ocean shores, or off to wild waves, things like that. A ton of fun. Kids are having a great time. Let's see, what else? Our summer day camp's another program that I help and assist with, and our Playground Pals program during the summer. We have two summer day campsites with about 56 to 12-year-olds in it, and they're off doing a lot of cool things during the summer also. With those 3 programs that I just talked about, every single day over the summer we're serving about 200 plus kids. So getting a ton of kids involved in our programs. It's a great job, good fun. And then during the school year, I do our Lacey Act Nights. Those are middle school activity nights that have, there's a DJ there, there's basketball, playing the Xbox One, there's dancing and inflatables and other games and activities. And over those, we have 13 events over the school year. We average right around like 475 kids per event, so it comes out to be just over 6,200 middle school kids attending those events over the school year. Let's see, what else? And then my Lacey Teen Council, which is going to transform into the Lacey Teen Leadership Group next year, which is an awesome volunteer group that Cody is part of, and he does a great job, and so it's awesome to see him here winning a Student of the Month award. So what I actually came to talk to you about was our Earth Day event that we just had last weekend. Cody was out there volunteering. We had 95 volunteers out there helping to pull ivy out of Wonderwood Park. It was a great day. We were out there for about 3 hours. We had I think 40 elementary age kids from Lacey Elementary out there, so it was great to see all them out there. And then we had another pretty good sized group from Salish. Like I said, we had a total of about 95 kids out there helping out with their parents. It was a great day, good weather. I think we removed about 60 bags worth of trash or invasive plants from Wonderwood. And then my next event coming up, it's going to be National Trails Day. June 1st from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. out at Woodland Creek. We're going to be revitalizing the trail out there, adding some wood chips, spreading it out there, and working on the trails out there. So it's kind of what's going on with teen and youth programs in the Parks Department. Any questions?
No, thank you.
Great.
Keep up the great work.
All
Really
right.
appreciate it.
Will do.
So next, is Alex here from St. Martin's? Can you please come up and can you raise the...
All right. Guys hear me okay? Used to using the coaching voice, so I'm not used to these microphones. Thank you all for having us. These are the guys. These are the St. Martin's men's basketball team. and our assistant coach, Adam Ellis, with his new baby jet right there. So he's hanging out outside. We really appreciate you inviting us, Council. Thank you. It's an honor to be here tonight. We were asked to come to talk a little bit about our season. It was a special kind of historic season on our end of things, and so we wanted to share it with you all. It's a great group of guys. They've been working extremely hard to represent this community, and they did a great job this year. So St. Martin's men's basketball won the first ever Great Northwest Athletic Conference championship this year. We're a Division II, NCAA Division II program, so all of you that saw the March Madness and the fun tournament here a couple weeks ago, a month ago, we're the Division II level of that, still 64 teams. We won the championship, went into the field of 64, ended up losing in the Sweet 16. We were ranked as high as number 8 in the nation this year. And all that time, you know, talking about how proud we are to represent St. Martin's, to represent Lacey, to represent Thurston County, to be a part of this special community. And so we're really proud of these guys and the work they put in. It was a great year, a championship on the floor like we talked about, those great national rankings, which we're very proud of. But the reason I wanted to make sure that all these guys were here tonight is to tell you that part of us representing this community goes beyond the basketball court. They've done a very, very good job, an important job of building relationships in the community. We do work with Thurston County Special Olympics. We began a mentoring program with a local middle school and doing some things off the court that I think these guys take a lot of pride in as well. Not to mention the fact that cumulatively these guys are over a 3.0 GPA at St. Martin's. We have 8 seniors who are all on track to graduate. You know, guys who are going to be teachers, guys who are going to be engineers, guys who are majoring in IT and computer science and business, and just you know, the future generation here is in good hands with these guys who are going to do you proud as representatives of St. Martin's and representatives of the Lacey community. So it was a great year. It was a year for, I think, us as basketball players, us as a university, and us as a community to be proud of. And we just want you to know that we're really honored to be a part of St. Martin's and Lacey, and we appreciate you guys having us here.
Great. If they come up.
Yeah, come on up, Charles.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Nice job.
Lacey on the map. Good job.
Good season, huh?
Proud of you guys.
Good job.
We didn't see anything.
Hey,
A couple more handshakes. Nice job. Sounds like a great season you guys had. Nice job. Nice job out there. Ready? All right, nice season. Yeah. Thanks for coming.
I don't know if Coach take a picture.
What's up, Coach? Yeah. Yeah, thanks for coming.
I don't think we have some.
Get a photo up.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anyone here to take a picture, unfortunately. Do we? Oh, Kurt, you will take it? Yeah. Then let's get front here, Council. Everyone squeeze in.
They've got a couple of shorter guys.
Can't stand behind these guys.
Oh, boy. I'm not usually in front. Yeah, that's right.
Perry. You don't want to be in the photo? You like photobomb them. Yeah.
Should we do a game now? One quarter game?
yeah. First 1-1. We'll still lose.
So next up on our agenda is public comment time for any comments on items not on the agenda. I think we've had one person sign up. Can you please come up and state your full name? Keep your comments about 3 minutes. It's Ed.
I'm Ed Pohl, a Lacey resident, live out in Horizon Point. I did send you a mail, an email on this subject back on the 16th, but I thought I'd come and reemphasize my points. I'm sure you all read it, but you all know, or you know, but perhaps the audience and the people listening out there don't know that there's a vacancy coming up in the Lacey City Council, and you're looking to appoint a replacement. I want to emphasize that this replacement should not be a candidate in the next election. This is smacks of favoritism on the council's part, gives an incumbent advantage to the new appointment, and I believe that you do have enough candidates that have requested appointment that you can find one that would promise not to run in the next election. The appointment of someone who is actually running would smack of collusion amongst the council to influence the next election. And I'm sure we don't want to give any indication to the citizens of Lacey that the council is engaged in collusion, especially in witnessing the last year or two in federal politics. You really don't want to do this. I heartily recommend you can strongly consider a candidate who is not going to run. One last thing, I have a little time. I want to remind, I was impressed by the recognition events. I want to remind the council that the 50th anniversary of the first moon landing is coming up in July. I had the honor of being a very, very young engineer who made a small contribution to that event. I consider it probably the most important event in human history up to this time, and I think you should recognize it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to address this council on any items not on the agenda? Seeing none. Our next item is the mayor's report, and I have two recommendations for appointments. First is to the Public Facilities District, and there is a outline in our agenda that sort of gives some background about this, and this is something that we haven't had to deal with for as long as I can remember being on this council, because we've always had someone in this place. But we are a part of the capital. We have a public facilities district that was put together through some legislation that has gone to help fund the regional athletic complex and the Children's Hands-On Museum. And as part of that process, there is a capital area regional public facilities board that really just meets like once a year to sort of go over the financials of the revenue that comes in, which is a portion of the sales tax to this region that the state holds back and it goes to this district that I'm sure that Children's Hands-On Museum, and I know in the RAC we use to pay off some of the debt there. And so we've had an opening on that district board for quite a long time, and we've sort of struggled to try to find someone. I was actually going through an interview process for the Planning Commission and came across someone who had been on our Parks Board when this was happening. And so he knew all about our Capital Facilities District. And I'm like, perfect. I would love to appoint you to this. And so he has agreed, and that's what's before us. John Grausham has agreed to step up to be on to this board. And so that would be my motion to approve him or to appoint him to as the regional representative to the Capital Area Regional Public Facilities District Board.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Is he here tonight?
I don't see him. Nope, I don't think he's here. So, yep. Is there any other discussion? And so with this, we actually had since it's the regional representative, we had to have approval from Olympia and Thurston County. So, because it's Olympia, Thurston County, and Tumwater as well, even though Tumwater hasn't been a part of that, didn't have a project, but they're on as well. So this has already gone through, I think, all the other councils. Were the last one to act on it. So given that, it's been moved and second to approve this appointment of John to the Public Facilities District Board. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries, and we finally have filled that seat. And next up is an appointment to our Planning Commission. Shaughnessy, is Shaughnessy here? You want to come up real quick and tell us a little bit about yourself, and before, I know I'm putting you on the spot. I know, no problem.
Hi, I'm Shaughnessy Walden Behrens, and I'm very pleased that I'll be the newest member of the Planning Commission. I'm relatively new to Lacey, but I am not new to Thurston County. I'm a service member. I was a service member here in Lacey, Tumwater, Olympia area in the early 2000s, and my husband retired and we came back. I have a bachelor's in business. I have 2 masters. I have my MBA and master's in public health. I have housing background, and I currently work for a contractor providing health technologies to service members and their families on Fort Lewis. So I'm excited to get started.
Great.
Thank you.
She just had a great interview, has a wonderful background, as you can tell, and so I am excited to, and I would move that we appoint Shaughnessy Walden Behrens to the Planning Commission.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Welcome. Next up is our city manager's report.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, we have 3 items before you. The first one is to award a Depot Trail Amenity project. Ashley Smith is going to provide the background on that information.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. Staff is recommending award of Lacey contract PW 2019-15 to low bidder.
Excuse me, real sec. I didn't realize it, but I might have a conflict of interest here. I do business with one of the 4 contractors.
Were they the winning bid?
Yes.
Where's our legal advice? From
Yeah, if that's the case, I'd recuse yourself.
Should I go in the executive?
No, you're fine there. We just won't vote on it if you.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Mayor, you and the city manager seem to disagree on the procedure right now.
You think you should go?
Well, you should not vote on the item.
I wasn't sure if I should go to the
No, I
executive.
don't think you need to go anywhere. Just recuse yourself from the vote.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
So he doesn't rent from you or anything. You don't have a financial interest in him, do you?
Well, the contract is pretty much, it's probably done officially by now, but it could be still going, and I think it's just better.
Be spared, be safe and sorry. Please.
City staff is recommending award of Lacey contract PW 2019-15 to low bidder JAM Construction Incorporated from Olympia, Washington, in the amount of $762,000 and $762,914. This contract provides for construction of a wood-framed structure closely matching the original 1894 Northern Pacific Railway depot design that once stood near this project site. Great care and craftsmanship will be taken to build a quality replica illustrating Lacey's early history. The structure will be utilized as a trail amenity with restrooms, picnics, shelter, and associated spaces. This project was advertised for 4 weeks, and 4 bids were received, ranging from $763,000 to $1,090,000. The engineer's estimate was $799,000. Total construction costs, including contingencies, utilities, third-party inspections and testing, and project administration, are estimated at $890,000. Construction is anticipated to begin in June and will be complete in early 2020. There are 180 working days allowed. And this is a photo of the current project site adjacent to the Lebanon Street extension. At this point, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion?
I move that we award Lacey contract number PW 2019-15 to low bidder JAM Construction, Inc. from Olympia, Washington in the amount of $762,914.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Discussion. Lenny?
So I have quite a few comments on this one. As council knows, I've been opposed to this project since the beginning, basically. It is my opinion that this would be the single biggest abuse of taxpayer money I've seen in my 8 years of council. I've heard all of the arguments from my council colleagues about why this is a good project. I've heard about it being an economic stimulus for the area, yet I see no data or proof of any kind that this is the case, and frankly don't see how a bathroom will stimulate the economy. Others have argued that we owe it to our residents, as we've been promising them a trail amenity for years. I would say that the people of Lacey would not want us to spend almost $1 million of their tax dollars on a bathroom, especially on a trail that's barely ever used. Approval of this bid is the biggest abuse of our residents I've ever seen. Now, don't misunderstand, I love history. I believe strongly that we should celebrate the history of Lacey, but not at $700 a square foot to build a bathroom. This is an absolute disgrace.
Is there any other comments? So let me, first of all, I understand that the cost of this takes your breath away. And especially when we had it in our minds, it was going to cost so much less. We were thinking this was going to be a $500,000 project. But let me take us back to how this got started, which was, well, back when I was on the Planning Commission, actually. It was one of my first meetings. Historic Commission. Yeah, Historic Commission. It was one of my first meetings on the Historic Commission, actually. It was Lori Flem's one of her first times. And Jim, who just passed away, unfortunately, was also there. And they had just gotten back with our old curator of our museum to Montana, and where they had found the plans of this actual depot. And it was from that point, the talks had started about recreating this historic train depot, which is the historical icon of the city of Lacey. It's how Lacey eventually got its name, because if it wasn't for this depot, we wouldn't have a post office, their first post office, and we wouldn't have had our first post office. We'd still might be called the woodland area of Olympia. And so the historic context was we were going to turn this into our new museum. But in order to do that and keep this structure as we've seen it, we were going to have to go down, if you remember right. And we got the initial cost of what it was going to take to recreate our museum with the depot on top, and it was like $7 million. And at that time, this council goes, whoa, there's just, you can't do that. You know, that was just crazy. And so the council at that time went forward and said, let's still create the actual depot. And so we have the identity, the icon that we've always been looking for here in this region. The things that pulls us all together that will be there hopefully for the next 100 years. Tumwater has the brewery. Everyone knows Tumwater has a brewery. Olympia has the Capitol as their icon. Lacey has what? It's the one thing that this council's all been talking about. Now, when we looked over this original bid and looked at it, we just thought there's just no way this could be right? I mean, how in the world could this be right? But the truth of the matter is this is not normal construction. There's nothing normal about this depot. It is a one of a kind. Nothing is standard. The ceilings are taller than normal. The overhangs, there's way more than we've ever, it's a reason it's expensive. And so the question is are we just never gonna recreate the depot? Something that we've been planning on for a long, long time. And I would say that is, I wouldn't want to look back 50 years from now and say, why haven't we still recreated the depot? And so I think this is an opportunity. I know the cost takes your breath away, but it's not going to get any cheaper. If we were thinking it's going to get cheaper, that's not going to be there.
Never said it would get cheaper, but I don't think the people of Lacey would want us to spend their money this way, now or in the future.
Okay.
And I think
Deputy Mayor?
it's absurd.
So, yeah, it is expensive, but other cities smaller than us have taken the forward action to try to establish identity. And part of this is our identity. It was, we're a recreation community area. People would come down on the trains and at the depot, go out and go to our resorts. They would take in the sulky racing. That's how where the post office is where it's a racetrack. So it seems to me that this would add some kind of a historical oomph to our city. It's meant to be a tourist draw, but it's also meant to draw the community into being able to enjoy the community at where it's at. And believe me, I hesitate spending all this money, but on the other hand, if we don't do it now, we're never going to do it, and we won't have an identity. I just feel that is something that we just have to say, let's do it, because later on, 10 years, 20 years from now, people will say this is great. So that's my reasoning.
Carolyn?
I could just add, this depot replica is not just an entity unto itself. It will be a piece of a greater project.
Exactly.
When we get the historical museum built nearby on the same site, and it will be all connected. So this is part one of that puzzle. And as funny as it sounds when you say it, Councilmember Greenstein, $800,000 for a bathroom, it's way more than a bathroom. It is identity for the Depot District. So
Very expensive identity.
it is expensive.
Absolutely.
I grant that, and I gulp a little bit too, but I will be voting to support this.
Jason?
So I think it's a beautiful project, and I really appreciate the work the staff's put into it and the council. I really hope it happens. Historicity is important, and the location's fantastic, and I can't wait to see it happen. However, as I've been stated in past meetings, I think a project like this really belongs to the community, and I'm pretty certain that the community would rise up and support it. So the budget in this whatnot is kind of irrelevant. If the community were to take it on, they would vet that, but and maybe even participate in other ways besides financially to make it happen. But I think the city's job is to put it together, cast the vision, secure the land, and but I think it's the community's job to step up and support it, just like the community supported the rail station over by Yelm Highway. So I'm going to vote nay on this, hoping that the community can step up and finish this project, and I'll put my name in for buying the first brick.
Councilmember Young, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, like Councilmember Cox said, this is step one in a whole plan for this district, the Depot District. And I think that by spearheading the project, have more of a future-looking perspective on this. It could be a district that brings nightlife to Lacey. and more of a scene that we don't have right now, and could potentially bring larger industry to this area. Bigger companies might move down here, companies that I know for a fact have said they won't move to this area because there's no nightlife, and their employees won't relocate here. So economically, I think that if we are gonna continue growing the way that we need to grow, this is a good first step.
Can I comment even though I'm not voting?
You can comment? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Okay, yeah,
I'm just clarifying.
yeah, no problem.
thought.
I think everyone's talked. It's been moved and second to approve the contract PW 219-15 to the low bidder, JM Construction. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
The motion carries. Thank you.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, we have another bid award before you, which is the College Street and Yelm Highway, which we're calling the Super T Pavement Rehabilitation Project. Our city engineer will provide that report.
Hi, good evening. I'm Roger Schelsel, your city engineer. And tonight I'd like to go through the highlights of what we're going to do this summer on College and Yelm Highway. The Super T project is actually going to start at 37th and Mullen Extension and go south down to the Yelm Highway intersection. It'll pick up on the western common boundary line we have with the city of Olympia and go all the way to Ruddle Road. This is a little over 3 centerline miles worth of roadway that we're going to do a grind and inlay on, replace all the asphalt. We were really fortunate this time around. We received a grant, National Highway Safety Grant, in the tune of about $4.1 million for pavement rehabilitation. We haven't received a grant of that nature since 1998. 1998. That's the last type of grant we've got. So when this grant became available, we applied for it and received it. And we're going to combine that monies along with our Transportation Benefit District monies to go ahead and rehabilitate this section of roadway. Can we have the next slide, please? We received 5 bids. We ran the bid selection for 3 weeks. Our low bidder was Active Construction of Puyallup, Washington, at $4,142,142. We anticipate this project to start about middle of June and finish up in the October timeframe. Our engineer's estimate for this project was approximately $500,000. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Can I get a motion? Well, I would move to, or go ahead.
I'd move to award Lacey contract number PW 2019-17 to low bidder Active Construction Incorporated from Puyallup, Washington, in the amount of $4,142,142,000.
I think that was close.
Close, not exactly.
Yeah, $4,142,142. Yeah.
Exactly.
You had the right number.
I'll second it. Was there a second?
I said second
Okay,
twice.
perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. We'll give it to Councilmember Young. It's been moved in second. Discussion.
Yeah, being TBD or Transportation Benefit District funds, and some of those monies go towards sidewalks and stuff. Are there any sidewalks in disrepair, array that?
That's a good question.
Councilmember Stebbins, I'm glad you asked that question. Actually, there's 58 ADA ramps that will be brought up to current standards with this project.
Nice.
So, yes.
That's awesome.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Deputy Mayor?
So, being very close to that, living that close to the area, I know that the college roundabout at 22nd is going in, and theoretically, it could start fairly soon too, correct? So they could be going on at the same time. How are you going to manage flowing, people trying to get
Down the
going
main
in
corridor.
both that main corridor without, and I know you're narrowing it down to 1 lane at times and stuff, but could you kind of walk us through that? Because there's 2 major projects, of which I'm off of 22nd, so I just am curious.
If anyone recalls back in 2006, when we paved College Street from Lacey Boulevard, literally down to 37th Avenue, it was very similar to this. except for that project had a lot of water main repair work in it, and it lasted about 7 months total. We have something that's very similar where we'll reduce traffic to a single lane in each direction. We'll ask motors to use Ruddle Road, which will pick up the brunt of the traffic, and also Golf Club as our workarounds. With this particular project, if you recall in 2012 when we did the Ruddle Road grind inlay, that's, again, this is very similar lengthwise. It was about a little over 3.1 miles from Yelm Highway all the way up to Pacific Avenue. And we did, if you recall, we did a series of grinds, and then we did the inlay. We did a tandem inlay, which requires 2 pavers to run side by side, and we actually put that road section in very quickly. I see something like this happening on this project too, where the burden of the congestion will be brief, but it will happen.
So, may I follow up? So there's a couple streets off of College that do not go through that, I can't think of the names of them now, but that are kind of, you go in and it's a cul-de-sac and stuff, but you need to get to it through College. And it's between, it'll take up part of where all the construction is going. And if you're narrowing it down to 1 lane, how are you dealing with those side streets that people have to get home to?
With flaggers. We'll actually man those intersections with flaggers that'll manage the traffic, on an individual basis for the side streets. The time that most motors, particularly on one-way streets or dead-end streets, are going to encounter problems is when we have to actually pave and roll while the asphalt, what we call hot mix asphalt, is, it comes out of the truck at about 350 degrees, and we roll it, and we need to get it down to about 100 degrees before it's safe to put traffic on. That period, which normally, depending on weather, could be upwards of an hour or so.
Oh.
So that's really I guess the critical time. Not to say that emergency vehicles couldn't drive over it, they certainly could, but that's when we would keep motors off of it while it was cooling.
So just about an hour time period?
Yes, hour,
Okay.
worst case scenario.
Is there any other questions? Councilmember?
Well, just as somebody who lives in the area where Super T is going to be happening and travels College Street a lot, I'm kind of grimacing at the thought of it. But I do want to commend you, Roger. I know how hard you worked to get this grant money, and to have a grant of this size come our way, I really applaud your efforts.
So, go ahead.
I think Super T is a really cool name for a road project. I'm really happy, Roger, that you're so happy about this. I really am. Congratulations for this opportunity.
So, my question really has to go back to the Transportation Benefit District dollars. Do we currently have enough dollars in our fund to cover this, along with the grant, or are we going to have to do something? I know this came from Finance Committee, and is our actions that we took in Finance Committee dependent on this project going forward, or can get an explanation there?
You bet. So the concern is with a grant this size and a fund that's so new that doesn't have a strong cash balance, that we will actually end up with a negative cash situation. So the matter that went before the Finance Committee is a short-term interfund loan to bridge the timing between the actual expenditure and when the grant will be reimbursed. So it's not really a concern about total funding, but rather just the timing of the cash flow.
Yeah. So I know that isn't in front of us yet, and so I just wasn't sure if for some reason that the council didn't decide to go ahead with that. Could we still fund this? Could we still pay for it?
Again, it'd be a timing issue because the grant is actually satisfying the majority of the contract, but, and I'm not sure that there will be a cash flow issue, so I do hope the council will consider passing that at your next meeting, but overall, there's enough cash. It's just a timing of when that cash actually comes into the fund.
Great, okay. So it's, is there any other?
Just one comment from somebody that lives close to the Dirigian Diamond construction. So, but that That rating of Yelm Highway right there, what's that, about a 75, 76?
Yeah, how do
It's
we
gonna
say-
be 100.
Yes, that's correct.
That's good.
We'll start at 100, then we'll work our way back.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We've had some discussion. All in favor of awarding this Lacey contract to the low bidder, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Next up.
So, Council, you may recall, we spent some time last work session going over the council vacancy, and then there was some particular time and attention on how you wanted to nominate and also provide for a voting procedure. So we wanted to bring this back to council to affirm that we got the right direction in terms of what council said. This is also a benefit for Councilmember Stedman, who could not make it that night. So I'm going to go very high level in terms of the major items, in terms of how the voting will go that night, and if you could let me know if that captures the process that council wanted to basically amend from their current policy.
Scott?
Yes.
Are you looking for a vote here or just a affirmation?
At the end, it'd be nice if you would say, this is the procedure and process we'd like to go for on May 7th.
Does the outgoing council person recuse from that conversation?
I don't believe so. She participated on the 18th, in a sense, it would amend the council policy procedures when it comes to council vacancies.
Okay, thank you.
So first of all, as we did discuss last Thursday, there will be a nomination process. It was agreed that the mayor would ask for nominations. Each council member could nominate an individual. Each council member is not required to make a nomination. No second is needed. And the nominations would be closed by a second and a majority. There'd be deliberation. Then it was agreed there would be a first round of voting. So council members would vote on each candidate in order. And basically what council agreed to, that they would be able to vote on each slate of candidates. So you can vote each time. You're not limited by one vote. Is there a question?
No, just clarification. It's a really picky thing. Clarification, really picky thing, but council member, the second bullet there, it should say council members are limited to one nomination per council member. It's unclear, otherwise it could say council members are limited to one nomination per candidate.
Council members are limited to one nomination.
I think it's
Yeah.
clear.
Sounds good.
Period.
Per council member, or period, whatever. Per council member. Per council member will be more clear, just a tiny thing.
What's the consensus of council?
I think we understand
What this is.
I appreciate your thoroughness there, but I think we understand. Each council member is limited to one nomination.
So for the benefit maybe of the public, so the idea would be that a council member could make a nomination, but they're limited to only one candidate.
So we could,
council member is limited to one candidate
yeah,
to nominate.
yeah. So there could be a
So if
six.
there's
moving forward.
11 people applying,
You could-
only 7 can be,
Only six.
or 6, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Correct.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Those numbers again.
So all candidates, back to the first rounding, all candidates receiving a majority vote, so that'd be 4 or more, would move to the next round. So then the second round of voting, this is where council members are limited to one vote. So council members will vote on each candidate in order. Council members are limited to one vote in the second round.
If I may,
Yes, please.
council members will vote on each candidate in order nominated.
In order nominated.
It's correct.
Okay.
The order they were nominated. The interviews will be done in the order the applications were received,
Received.
and the voting
Voting will be in the order
of
the
the nomination.
yes.
That's what we're here for, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
This is the time to ask questions, not during May 7th. This is perfect.
Thank you.
So, as we discussed, the question will be, as you're ready to vote, all those in favor of appointing candidate to fill the council vacancy, say aye. So a candidate receiving a majority of votes from council, 4 or more, suspends any further voting. So I'll give an example. Let's say 4 candidates are nominated. Candidate A receives only 2 votes. Then candidate B is voted upon. They receive 4 votes and is declared the new council member. Candidates C and D are not voted upon. Then the mayor shall declare the nominee receiving the majority vote as the new council member and then be sworn in prior to the next regular council meeting.
In round 2. Round 1, everyone gets voted on.
Right.
It's
Yep.
Exactly, yep.
That's exactly how we discussed.
So if that is the affirmative, we will make a change,
That one change on, in order of the nomination?
and then we're okay with the second bullet under nominations?
Yes,
As
that's
written.
fine.
Okay,
Okay,
I think you captured it.
Thank you.
okay, thanks.
so we're actually changing the voting procedures this will go into it. So I need a motion.
I would move to amend our council policy for nomination and voting procedures to fill council vacancies.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I just want to say, I like this. I know we talked it through. The difficulty last time is, I think we were aware of the council's policies and procedures, but I don't think we did a good enough job of explaining it to all the candidates. And so I think this clears it up. It gives an opportunity for everyone to be voted on, at least in that first round, so everyone can be voted on. And then in the second round, that's when you're limited to one vote and the majority. Yeah.
I would just add, I think what this does is it clears up what angered some people last time we had one of these processes. So we had people leave the room who were nominated for, they had been interviewed, they had been nominated by council, but they never actually got voted on because as soon as someone got 4 votes, the voting was over. Some of those people felt that they did not get a fair shake. They felt that it wasn't a good process. They left. Some of them left rather angry. So I think this rectifies that situation and makes it a much more fair and open process.
I'd like to just back that up by saying, yeah, I think if everybody would have the opportunity to at least see where they stood in the process and how many votes they would have got, whether it's a elimination round or not.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I think they would all have felt better about it.
Sure.
So.
Although we did follow council policies and
Absolutely.
procedures,
Yeah.
but that's why we're amending it right now. So.
Well, as somebody who took part in this process 2 years ago, I really appreciate the change in this policy, and I would like to request of the city manager that each applicant, before the interviews ever happen, receive a copy of this, so they, I know that when you're hearing something introduced and you're one of the candidates there, there's stage fright and jitters and all, and you may not be taking in information quite as well.
Yeah.
So I think providing it ahead of time would be
And
doing a
this
real
time
service.
around, what we've decided to is at the very beginning to sort of go over how the night's going to go. So we'll go over these new procedures, and so. But I think let's send it, in advance. That's great, and then we'll go over it the night of, just so everyone's sort of reminded and they can ask questions then at that point. So.
Yeah.
Deputy
But
Mayor?
I just wanted to say, having you been part of that thing and being the ones that never got to be voted on, I'm glad to have your opinion and stuff because it does make a big difference.
It does.
Any other discussion? So it's been moved and seconded to adopt these new nomination and voting procedures for council vacancies. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion unanimously carries. Thank you. Next up is standing general committees. First up is land use. Councilmember Cox.
The land use committee's last meeting was on March the 26th, and we were there to discuss tree removal requirements of a tree ordinance. We had representatives from the Greenbrier neighborhood who have some concerns about 2 mature fir trees that are in their common area. And they would like to be able to remove those trees, but they have been visited by the city arborist and judged to be healthy trees. And the city policy just does not allow for those kinds of tree removals. So we had a good discussion with them, and eventually the committee decided by consensus to actually do nothing about the proposal at that point, but to ask that the next time that the city's tree ordinance is reviewed, which will be in 2020 or 2021, that the Planning Commission take a look at adding some direction in there on the removal of healthy trees. And that's the report on that.
So I only have a comment here on that. So we're gonna wait till 2021 before this is addressed.
It's the next time the policy comes up for review.
I have a problem with that.
We can do whatever.
Let me just add, so, well, we can add a little bit to that. I sit on that committee as well. The reason that it was decided to go in that direction is basically because the agenda and the workload right now on the planning commission, they don't have room to add this without taking off other things. It can't be added to their workload unless they actually remove something else further down. And the stuff they're working on currently is important, very important, and some of it time sensitive. So that's just as soon as that it could fit into their agenda, which is, sometime next year or the following.
Okay, Councilmember?
There's usually an avenue where, a tree, no matter what size it is, has so many tree units, and that if the tree was to be removed for whatever reason, that the landowner, the property owners, this case being the association, should be able to take those same tree units and replant. It might take 1,000 trees to replace that many, but it's something to think about.
Well, yeah, and I hope that will come out in the next time we update this, because I just have a real problem saying you can never take down a tree under. If it's healthy, you can never take it down.
Well,
if you're commercial property or if you're an HOA, but if you're a private property owner, you can.
Yeah.
Correct.
I have a problem with
And
that.
I don't think anyone on the committee necessarily disagrees with that. It's we don't have the power, even as council, to make an exception to the rules without changing them. So in order to change it, you need to change our tree ordinance. We couldn't just make an exception. I think if we could, we might have considered it, but it's not within our purview to make an exception to the policy. We would have to change the ordinance.
So,
Yeah, exactly. And in order to do that, it would have to be fully vetted, so.
Okay, Deputy Mayor?
So they could, if, the thing is that they thought, even though it's a healthy tree that potentially could fall on their roof, well, that could happen anyway. You can't take down every tree that ever exists to keep it from falling on your roof. They can trim it up, and that's certainly allowable. So that was what part of the other issue is. It's still two healthy trees that was not leaning on the roof or
Yeah.
anything.
Well, obviously, it's something that we're not going to be able to address right now, so I think it's somewhat moot point, but
Well, I appreciate Councilmember Greenstein's chiming in on the fact that Planning Commission does have a pretty good-sized load this year, and
It's huge.
it's all important work, and something would have to come off the list. And I don't think we were unsympathetic to the residents there, but
I mean, imagine if they were willing to plant 10 trees in place of those 2. I would rather have 10 beautiful, it's like, it doesn't make sense.
If it was a homeowner, they could do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not allowable for a business, and an association's a business.
And one other thing is, I think it was designed to make sure our trees are protected as much as
no,
possible.
I understand
So that's
that.
always a good thing, but there should always be some
Okay,
room for.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go down that road. Actually, I want to know why we weren't doing it, so thank you. So
Another reason.
next up is the Community Relations and Public Affairs Committee. Councilmember Stedman?
Oh, sorry. I wasn't sure if she was done or not. All right, community relations.
Oh, were you done? Sorry, you're done, right?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
I was sure. Community Relations and Public Affairs Committee met on April 1st at 11, and myself and Councilmember Carolyn Cox were present. 2 agenda item that was started with the Lacey's Minsk Sister City Association, where Barbara Clarkson presented the Lacey Minsk Sisters Association's 2018 annual report, the 2019 work plan and budget to the committee on behalf of Terry North, president of the association. She discussed the events they participated in throughout the previous year and their participation plans for this year. Following the presentations, committee members and Ms. Clarkson discussed ideas of increasing membership, building relationships with the Polish Sister Association in Seattle, the value of attending the monthly meetings, creating a separate policy for sponsorships, and increasing fundraisers to offset operational costs and future budget requests. Committee reviewed and approved the proposed 2000 work plan for the association, and this this action by the committee will be reported out at a future council meeting, which is tonight. Then the second agenda item was the Spirit of Lacey Award, and this one is near and dear to my heart. This was in regards to the Spirit of Lacey Award. The Spirit of Lacey Award was established to recognize exceptional and out of the ordinary contributions to the community. It is intended to be awarded sparingly and on a limited basis so as not to diminish the significance and the extraordinary contributions of the recipients. The purpose of this award is to recognize individuals, organizations, businesses who make significant contributions to the betterment of the greater community, or whose acts of heroism, courage, selflessness, or exceptional volunteerism are worthy of special recognition. An application was received that requested consideration for the Spirit of Lacey Award to be given to men and women serving their country who lost their lives in combat. The committee expressed great admiration of the United States Armed Forces inside of the City of Lacey's ongoing support of its veteran community. As an alternative to the Spirit of Lacey Award, the committee explored the idea of an honor wall that would recognize all residents serving the military that paid the ultimate sacrifice. The committee requested staff to draft the proposed honor wall to be reviewed at an upcoming committee meeting. In addition, the committee suggested amending the Spirit of Lacey Award criteria in recognition of the future honor wall. And a little background about this. There was a gentleman that lived in Lacey, served in JBLM, and he served, I believe it was 14 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, it's who's more worthy than that? Unfortunately, he didn't make it back his last deployment, and so a citizen thought it worthy of him to be considered for this great award, which everybody should be. But, you know, having said that, I mean, you know, there's 50-something thousand service members in Vietnam were killed. You know, it goes on and on. To give out that many Spirit of Lacey Awards, like one's better than the next. You know, all this taken in consideration, it was a great, awesome idea of a public citizen to do that and try to honor them in this way, and it's awesome. But at the same time, there's probably a better way to do it, and you don't want to like water it down in any way. And so I hope we got it right.
Yeah.
And
Well, I thank you for that, and I really look forward to hearing that presentation on Honor Wall. I think it's probably long overdue. You know, obviously we're a strong military community. It's one of the things I really love about Lacey, and so I imagine that will be a good presentation. I look forward to hearing about in the future.
we did discuss possibly over it in the Sears. What's that? Yeah, the flag pavilion over in the Sears parking lot, and maybe almost like a miniature Vietnam Wall memorial or something. Or I've seen other things where they put up dog tags and stuff. There's hundreds of different ways to honor them, and so, like I said, I hope we got it right. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. We're on to boards, commissions, committee reports. I'm up first, and I do not have a report. Deputy Mayor.
So the Joint Animal Services Commission, or JASCOM, met yesterday, April 24th. During our comment period, we had the testimony. This was the second time the person came back about a dangerous dog complaint. And the issue was whether or not the field service officers could take action when the complaint came from a third party to remove the, or issue a citation to the owners of a dangerous dog. As it turns out, the second time around, the victim also came, which kind of made the question about whether they could take action kind of moot, because the victim then came up and talked about her injuries. Previously, the third party had brought back x-rays of the broken bones in her hand and stuff. So, the officers can go forward and with a complaint. However, we wanted to make sure it was clear that whether or not the field officers can do that if it's an obvious evidence-based complaint, whether or not the victim or somebody else was making it. And JASCOM's board member, Commissioner Metzner, followed through with the county ordinances, and it specifically states that if there is evidence, then the officers can remove a dangerous animal. So in the future, that won't be a question about it. So I'm sure the officers now are going to follow through regardless. Also, we approved a budget amendment for a new animal services vehicle. Some of the vehicle was damaged during a theft and accident and stuff, and so it was followed up of costs. And with vehicle costs, insurance, plus the annual maintenance and fuel, it will cost approximately $31,000 to amend the budget, which is fairly reasonable, and we passed that motion. We had an update of our online licensing portal, which is close to being launched. And this will allow dog and cat owners to go online, put the type of animal, name, the ID number if you have it, if available, and then pay the license for all at once. And it'll make it a lot easier, probably get more people complying with licenses. They'll also get a notice for annually when it's due again. And we're talking minimal costs here, like $10, maybe $15 at the most. So it's not a big thing, but it does help with tracking the animals and stuff. And do you want me to give my Thirst and Thrives thing now, or wait until it's Rachel's turn? Okay, and that's my report.
So, speaking of Councilmember Young, do you have a report?
I do not have a report, but I just wanted to say real quick that this is my last council meeting, and it's been about exactly 2 years since I've been on this council. It's been an incredible experience, very, very positive, and I've grown a lot. And I just want to say how honored I've been to serve alongside the staff of the city of Lacey and my council mates. I'll miss everybody a lot, and I hope to see you guys often. I really do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We had a little celebration before tonight's council meeting to recognize your work, and I'm telling you, you'll be missed. You really will be missed. Having your perspective as as a young mother in Lacey, it was absolutely great. You brought some great ideas, great perspectives to this council, and through your participation, I think you made Lacey a better place for all of us. So thank you so much.
Thank you. That means a lot.
So, can you please give the Thirst and Thrives?
So I'm Councilmember Young's alternate for Thirst and Thrives, and so we met April 15th at the Hub this time for a community conversation Thurston County topic put on by Kaiser Permanente, and this fulfills the insurance company's mandate to engage the community on health issues. So some of the Kaiser Permanente, or KP, discussed the overlap of the KP strategy and Thurston Thrives priorities, and the activities will help KP to understand opportunities for partnership. The group broke into 3 smaller groups that discuss what are KP's opportunities to work with Thurston Thrives subcommittees that focus on lifestyle changes, children and health issues, and housing/needs assessment. And the last exercise was to give one piece of advice for KP Washington in working with our community, and a lot of them focused on addressing, coming up with ideas for, what's the word I want? Instead of giving them pills first, to come up with ways so that they can prevent them from going down an unhealthy path. And so, encouraging more exercise, more walkable types of activities and stuff. And that's my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Greenstein.
So I have just a couple of quick reports tonight. Law and Justice met on April 18th. We approved a draft of a new charter, which will now go to the County Commission for approval. We also formed a subcommittee to start working on a strategic plan, a long-range strategic plan, which I volunteered for, so we'll be starting those meetings shortly. Also, EMS, Emergency Medical Services, met on April 17th. Just a couple of things there. We are in the process of hiring paramedics. There's a huge shortage, both locally and nationally, of paramedics. So opportunities are there if anyone's interested. Also had some extensive conversation regarding emergency room diversion. So, and this council is aware of it. And in fact, this council agreed at our last meeting to send a letter in support to the Department of Health to support Providence getting some more beds that they've asked for. We have a situation where at sometimes both Providence and Capital Medical Center are full, to the point that when an ambulance goes there, they can't go in. I mean, they literally are diverting them. Now, of course, if it's a life-threatening situation, they'll take them in. But what happens is if it's not life-threatening and they have to be transported, we're having to take patients as far as Seattle because the hospitals in Tacoma have had no beds either. What that does, it then puts our paramedic unit way out of position. So if something serious happens or there's an emergency of any kind here locally, they're not in position to react and respond. So it's a serious concern. This should have been approved by the Department of Health. I think they're 8 months behind right now. And so we've sent a letter. Tumwater and Olympia have each sent a letter. The county has sent a letter. There's broad community support for pushing the Department of Health to actually act on this. So hopefully we'll get some action there on that. And then last on that committee was Medic One has done a public survey. Some of you may have gotten calls for that survey. Results should be available in May, and we'll get a better feel for people's thoughts about the Medic One program and how it works. And then the last thing I just want to mention, I also sit on the Lacey Subchapter Board for AUSA, that's the Association of the U.S. Army, and we work closely with the Ghost Brigade, which is our community partner. Two big events that are coming up, and they're both going to be here in Lacey. The first is Ghost Family Day. So that's a large event where we'll have probably about 6,000 soldiers and their families at the rack. It's an all-day event. It's all free to the soldiers and their families. And we do that all with sponsorships from local businesses. So that is August 26th. And then the second one, which is another fundraiser that AUSA does to raise money in order to provide hams and turkeys at the holidays for the families of the lower enlisted who sometimes are unable to afford some of that. And that's the Freedom Ride that we've done for several years now. That's on September 14th, and that will start at Northwest Harley right here in Lacey. So that is my report.
Thank you much. Council Member Hearn?
So Saturday is the much worked for and anticipated 5K race against trafficking at Mountain View Church in Tumwater. We encourage you to attend, walk, run. There will be a digital timer there with your number on it if you're a semi-pro or pro runner. Cheer people on, support the event, support the fight against human trafficking. Also, I was recently reminded that the Olympia, well, the VCB, which is called Olympia and Beyond, will be having their annual State of Tourism meeting. And just like their style, it's going to be at a local campsite. They say you bring your camp gear, so we'll probably be having s'mores and campfire and duck goose. But I think we'll be getting some other things done too. Of course, talking about agritourism and our area, which is certainly appropriate. And I'll be looking forward to bringing back some great ideas from that fantastic regional group. That's my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Stedman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Lacey Southsound Chamber had intercity transit during their forum this month. Everybody's heard us report on intercity transit in 100 times already. It was just an update. I don't know if Councilmember Cox has any further updates, but other than expanded service and more, buses coming earlier, saying instead of 30 every 30 minutes, every 15, but it's building up as the money's come in. They're ordering buses. I mean, most everybody is pretty aware of it. It just was a recap to the business community. We appreciated it. And that's it, unless there's anything new that's happened in the last week.
Well, I can add a little bit on my report. We had a retreat last week.
Great.
And then Solid Waste Advisory Committee, you heard me report on the RFP process the county's undergoing. They're going to continue that, it looks like, but they are going to expand the current contract. Whether it'll be by 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years, it is still up in the air, but they're entertaining exercising some sort of, there's a 5-year option right now. And any exercise, in my opinion, would be great to get to see if Cowlitz landfill would become available, and a huge cost savings to the residents of Thurston County. It's not 100%, but at least they listened to a point where they saw that there could be a great opportunity there, enough to extend the contract. And other than that, I would encourage our council and staff to seek a briefing on that RFP process and that whole thing, and because. And for all the cities and municipalities in the Thurston County region, it's good to know what's going on with garbage service and the transportation costs and all that stuff that ultimately directly affects you, even though it's not being picked up at your curbside in Lacey. It's it's good. Sometimes government officials open their ears, listen, and see an opportunity to do a little bit better. That's my report.
Great. Councilmember Cox.
All righty. I'm going to back up a little bit. I covered the Olympia Lacey Tumwater Visitor and Convention Bureau Board meeting for Councilmember Hearn on April 16th, and he did it. You're welcome. He did announce that the annual State of Tourism meeting is happening on May 2nd, but what he didn't tell you is that there will be awards presented at that meeting, and it's a secret who the award winners are. So if you want to find out who they are, please plan on attending the event. And dress code is your best camp attire.
And where's that going to be located?
So,
It's on the card.
yeah,
It's a
have you
retreat.
heard of Stamford Retreat Center?
Nope.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, there's that's what Olympia and Beyond does. It helps people know where these places are. So that's where we're going to be. So I'm going to figure out where it's at, and I'm going to go camping.
Okay.
Part of it, but it's also the same night as our joint session with the county commission.
Yes,
so,
I know.
That's right. We have a conflict, so we'll have to work that out.
yeah.
Camping or what?
Pardon?
Joint meeting with the Thurston County, right?
Right.
Commissioners.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to discuss that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Alrighty. So moving on, the Community Action Council met last night, and most of the meeting was devoted to debriefing about the fundraiser that took place Thursday morning for the Monarch Children's Justice and Advocacy Center. The turnout was over 200 people, which is the highest that they've ever had, and this was the 9th annual event. The keynote speaker was Kelly Randis, who goes by the name K.L. Randis as an author. And I mean, you could have heard a pin drop as she talked and told her story about being a victim of child physical and sexual abuse and the experiences that she had interacting with the justice system, and a justice system that kept returning the father who was inflicting the abuse to her home. And it was, I mean, it was just a chilling, several of us were there, and I appreciate your attendance there. Just a chilling, but very impressive thing that she's done. And her book is sold all over the world now. It's required reading in some school districts, and she keeps it very real. We did hear from John Walsh, the director of the Community Action Council, that she was quite taken with the fact that we use therapy dogs. And while she didn't get a chance to tour the Monarch Center while she was here, I believe she is going to come back. And she wants to really see how that process works and how the dogs are used to help calm children when they have to testify in court. So all in all, a very successful thing. I'm not sure exactly what was raised yet, but hopes are high, and it will go toward building a permanent home for Monarch. And Intercity Transit had a planning retreat on April 19th, and as we approached the building, the very first of the brand new shiny buses that were ordered had rolled up, and so we got to tour the bus, and they're this new European design which has more of the front end of the bus where the driver is in glass. So the driver gets much more of a view. There's no visual obstructions for the driver. And they're really pretty. The color scheme is the same as the Intercity Transit, but they have just a little bit different, more modern look to them, and more are on the way. A lot of the retreat was devoted to talking about fare structures here. The existing fleet has these old-timey fare boxes, and almost antique. You can't even buy them anymore. In fact, when one of them breaks, they have to look on eBay and Craigslist and other places to try to find parts for them. So there's a major question as new buses come in and we have to keep replacing aging ones about what we're going to do with fares. And so there are a number of options that are being discussed. Some are like the Orca system that's used with King and Pierce Transit systems to the north. The system that currently in use is about to be replaced, but I think everybody's a little nervous about investing in brand new technology before somebody else tries it out and they shake out the kinks in it. There are a number of communities around the country who have gone to a different fare system where the rider doesn't actually physically pay a fare, but the system is subsidized by community partners, major employers and the like, investing in the service. So that's another option. And there are some other technologies as well, but the cold hard fact is it's going to cost more to get a electronic fare system than we would actually collect in fares. So it's a conundrum. So we're going to have another one of these sessions in July and keep talking and try to figure out a path forward on it. Just incidentally, fares only make up 10% of Intercity Transit's budget. So I know that may be a little shocking to some people, but when you're talking about changing a fare system like that, you're really not talking about a huge part of the budget. So that is my report.
Great. Well, we've reached the end of our agenda. I'd like to recognize Eddie Bishop from our planning commissions here. Thank you. Thank you for all you do. We will be retiring to an executive session to discuss the city manager's performance, and we will be there about 30 minutes, is what I said. And so we'll take about a 5-minute break, and then afterwards I'll come back and adjourn the meeting. There will be no, it's per RCW 42-30-110. So that's how we're going to this executive session. So in the meantime, again, Councilmember Young, thank you. Thank you for all you've done for the city, and we'll miss you. We do have, I think, one more meeting you'll be attending. We have a joint work session with the North Thurston Public Schools next Tuesday at North Thurston Public Schools. I know that Lenny can't make it to that meeting, right? But I think the rest of us can. So we'll have one more meeting, and after that, but this is your last council meeting. So in the meantime, you keep it classy, Lacey, and we're gonna adjourn into an executive session.